What is up, Rifters? So, just this weekend, we had another Rift Lab Clash, this time the fourth one, hosted by Piltover Archive. And since I finally started on the Riftbound tourney grind, I decided to sign up once more. This time going into the tournament, I actually did not get a lot of practice games at all in the coming week. I think recently I printed out some proxies, and one deck I started feeling really good about was the baited hook Darius. One reason I kind of like this deck a lot is it seems to have a pretty solid matchup into a lot of decks. I feel like the matchup spread is generally pretty good, especially with the regionals in China. A lot of people are switching to Aurora. Darius is a pretty like tempo oriented, more aggro deck. So I feel like it should also still have a pretty good matchup into the new Rising Aurora decks that are coming up. I know I do love Volibear, but I feel like the agency when playing Volibear is a little low, especially when all your units are so big. And yeah, so I brought Darius Baited Hook to this Rift Lab Clash number 4, and I did pretty well. I actually did, although I came in 13th place, I think the total amount of entrants was 87. So I technically did better than the other Rift Lab Clash I did, which I came 11th out of like 60 something. And yeah, my scores do prove that I did much better this time. Basically, I went 3-1, no ties. Went 2-0 in my first game, 1-2 in my second, 2-0 in my third, and 2-1 in my last. I'll just go over how I felt I did in this tournament. Unfortunately, I did not record any of my games. Maybe that's something I'll do for the next time, but I feel like the VOD would be a little weird because I like zooming in and out on tabletop. Let's take a look at the deck list. I think my baited hook Darius deck list is pretty similar to some of the other ones that are a little bit more optimized out there. One thing, so I'm running 8 Order 4 Fury. Honestly, I feel like this should be 7 and 5, mainly because, especially if you can get a seal out, you don't really need this many Order runes. And there are certain times where I did feel like I was getting real close to running out of Fury runes that I've been recycling. Yeah, if I were to change this, it would go to 8 and 5. Um, yeah, for the battlefields, pretty standard for Darius. You got 2 battlefields that sort of lets you get to that baited hook a bit faster. And you got the Trifarian War Camp, which is great because you have so many tokens. In my main deck, I run, standard Darius's. Actually, I know a lot of decks run 3 seals. I actually reduced it to 2 because sometimes I feel like you don't really need that many seals. I feel like once you draw like 2 seals, it's just overkill. I know there's like pretty good combos you can do with seals, especially with the Legion effect and Darius Legend. But I did reduce it down to 2. I guess I tried to fit some other stuff. I'm running 3 Cleave, 3 Hidden Blade for card draw, and also good for like the big boys that you want to get rid of. Triple Daring Poro, triple Trifarian, triple Faithful. Pretty standard. Just got to get a lot of like 2-3 drops in, 3 baited hooks. One card I'm not too confident about is the Dangerous Duel. This card is pretty solid in the, I guess, late game when you need to get like an extra might. It's basically like a partial cleave if you can get that Legion off. But early game, it's not that good. And especially if you get off baited hook, it's also very situational. Honestly, if I were to change anything about this deck list, I'd probably get rid of the Dangerous Duels, replace it with something else. Vanguard Captains, pretty standard. Spectral Matron, also pretty standard because the Captain Matron combo with baited hook is just so strong. Make sure you have a Vanguard Captain in your discard. Summon a Spectral Matron with baited hook. You can kill your Captain to get the Matron, which also summons the Captain back. Crazy value. That's basically 9 might in one summon, including all the tokens you get there with the Legion. 2 Noxus Hopefuls, also pretty good, like just a combo turn. Get a lot of might on the field. 1 Vein, I think you don't really need more than 1 Vein. I think it just ruins your hand when you get more than 1 Vein. So just 1 Vein is fine. And Kaisa, great source of card draw. Get towards those baited hooks faster. Triple Draven, you need these for your late game. And 2 Grand Stratagems just to close out the game. And on my sideboard, I basically thought I would play against like more ramp Ys or Aurora decks. So my sideboard is basically all anti-Aurora. You got the triple salvage to get rid of the Aurora, triple call the weak to kill the big units that send out. You can just trade with a recruit. And then 2 Leonas, which are also great because usually the big units are holding. So if you go in, make them deal 0 damage, that's crazy value. So that's basically the sideboard here. And yeah, that's basically the deck. So yeah, I guess I'll go into my matchups. So my first matchup, I went 2-0, and this was against a Teemo deck. Unfortunately, I don't have the deck list that my opponent played. So I'm just gonna pull up like a similar deck list that would perform pretty well in China, in one of their regionals. So the first Teemo deck I played against, it was like they actually didn't have a lot of hidden cards. From what I've seen. Maybe they didn't draw into them, but basically, like, I feel like when you're playing Darius into Teemo, you have a pretty strong advantage because you can, let's say you start early, you get multiple tokens out, you get some, I don't know, like a faithful manufacturer. If you can get those two battlefields, you want to play more of like a hold strategy because Teemo has trouble trying to conquer. And basically, if you can hold, Teemo will never be able to play their hidden cards, and they basically need to push you off to get their value. So I think against Teemo, you can basically just try to dump all units onto the field or onto the battlefields. The only thing you really have to watch out for is the Thousand-Tailed Watcher, because let's say you on turn you're at 6 points or 7 points, you want to hold to win the game. You dump all your units at the fields, and then the Watcher comes down, gives them all -3, and then just clears you out. So I think like against Teemo early game, you want to hold as much as you can. If you can get to 6 points or 7 points, of course, I think it actually is worth retreating all your units just so you don't get Thousand-Tailed Watchered. And I actually did that for one of my games where I got to 6 points and then I retreated all my units and then I made sure that I had Grand Stratagem in hand. Because basically, once you're at 6 points, you play Grand Stratagem, you send in all your tokens, all your dudes. It's an easy conquer for both battlefields to get that winning point. And I don't think Teemo has any way to counter the Grand Stratagem. I think like if they ran the Mind Splitter, which my opponent did not, or they never drew into it, this would be a good answer to the Grand Stratagem play, especially if I'm at 6 points. But even then, like they're still spending a whole turn to spend 7 runes, and that doesn't really get them anywhere, at least with their board state. So even if they got rid of the Grand Stratagem, you could technically still overwhelm them without the Grand Stratagem, as long as you get the baited hook out. I think in the games that I played, were the games where I got baited hook, they went so much more smoothly than the games that I did not get baited hook, though they were still playable, but I was definitely feeling a lot more behind than the other ones. So, but I think against the Teemo, the first Teemo player I played against, it was pretty smooth. And then my second game, I went against a Master Yi ramp. So this one I went 1-2. And honestly, I was not playing very well for the first two games, even though I did well in the first game. I think I had like a lot of like silly misplays where I would say something. And then in this game, I said some things way too fast. My first round, I lost. I think they started off with Aspirant's Climb, and they got out the big Dead Blooms, the Face Folk, and I wasn't able to. I think I didn't hit baited hook, and I had to go second. So that's kind of disadvantageous, and so I wasn't able to get the point tempo in time, and therefore I just lost. After basically, I could not take back the battlefields after about like 5-6 points. And then the second game I got to go first, which is great. I managed to. I think I did get baited hook that game, which a little late. It wasn't early, but because of thanks to baited hook, I was able to sort of build up a lot of value on my base and be able to take over the battlefields. In my third game, I did not get baited hook, and I went second, so I was in sort of a unfavored position. And what's worse is that there was one turn where I basically wanted to clear out a Dead Bloom on a field, and I could also clear out another big guy on the other field. But all I had in hand was like a Grand Stratagem and like one unit, and I had a few tokens on field, so I was able to use the Grand Stratagem. And if I planned my turn out correctly, I could clear out both battlefields and still have some stuff left over, which would have brought me very, very close to winning. But I made the mistake of sending a six, what is it, an 8 might unit into the Dead Bloom to trade because I knew my opponent was tapped out. But I forgot about the Master Yi Legend ability, which is when the unit defends alone, it gets +2. Like this is like a super rookie mistake. I mean, I'm still pretty new to playing these games in general, but I feel like that's something I shouldn't have forgotten. But what happened was I called out my actions. I'll send this guy here, and then I sent it in. I said it, and then I was like, wait a minute, I don't have enough might to kill the Dead Bloom, and then I basically lost I basically lost a unit for free, which meant I couldn't come back. So I had to lose. I lost the last game. It was pretty bad misplay. And yeah, that's what happened in the Master Yi matchup. After that, I went against a Kaisa player for my third game. And honestly, I thought this matchup would be a little harder than I expected. But I think the Kaisa matchup when you're playing Darius is not too bad because a lot of their spells will overkill your units. Like let's say they use a Hextech Ray or Falling Star. These all deal 3. They have Void Seeker. This deals 4. But a lot of your units are actually 1 to 2 might if you think about the recruits. So when Kaisa uses some of these spells, they're actually losing value in a sense. Obviously, like Falling Star is so strong, like it's a 2-for-1. But if they clear out like a recruit, is it really a 2-for-1? Maybe not. So I think the Darius matchup into Kaisa is pretty good. I don't remember super clear how those games went, but I did win 2-0. And against Kaisa, I think you just play your typical conquer strategy. You send your units in, send them out. A lot of the time, like both of you will run Darius, but the strategy I liked doing with Darius is that you could play him in base for your first turn, and then the next turn you send Darius in, try to get a conquer. You don't even need your +2 might, and then you could play another card, ready Darius, send Darius back to base, and then on the next turn you can you basically threaten with a 7 might, which is quite nice. And with Darius in base, to actually have him die, it's actually pretty hard because now you basically need a Falling Star to kill him or a Singularity. And I don't think my opponent ran Singularity or a Cathian Rain, which meant that my Darius, as long as I kept it in base, would only be susceptible to a Falling Star. And even then, it's not like the greatest of trades. Like obviously, like 2 cost for a 5 might unit is pretty good, but I think like if you're using Falling Star early to clear out some of my other guys, it's not that worth. And I think my opponent did make one misplay where I had a Draven out early due to a baited hook, and they actually used the Falling Star to kill the Draven when it wasn't really super powered. Maybe I guess they were anticipating it's like, oh, I'll kill the Draven now before it gets to like a might and I can't deal with it, which is fair. But I think the Falling Star could have been used a little bit more effectively on some of my other units. Maybe like some Vanguard Captains that came out soon later. So yeah, I think the Kaisa matchup was actually pretty nice. It felt pretty good, especially once you got the baited hook. You basically just outvalue them. They don't have that many units, so I think like if you can just flood your base and then slowly send in some units, get the conquer points, run out, you're generally doing pretty good on Darius. For my last game, I went 2-1. I won, I lost, and I won again. This one was against another Teemo deck. I think this one was more of a hide Teemo, so a little bit more standard. They hit a lot of units at battlefields to get value with their Ember Monk. I think based on what I remember, the first game I ended off basically just got a bunch of points early, ended off with a stratagem. And then the second game, I think I made a lot of mistakes in what units to kill early, and that put me behind a lot. And they were able to basically establish like the holds on both battlefields, so I couldn't come back. And the last game was interesting because I think the first game I actually went for a conquer strategy, but the last game I realized I could actually just hold versus Teemo, and it would be just as effective as going into a battlefield and coming right back. And so my last game, I actually won the game off of a hold because I think the Teemo player had to send a lot of their resources into one base or battlefield to get me off of it. So I just moved all the units in my base to the other one, and I think Teemo has a pretty hard time moving the units back because I think they cleared out one of my battlefields with a 1,000 tailed watcher, but that's basically one out of 2 watchers or 3 watchers gone into that battlefield, and they can't really retreat it and bring it back again. So I guess technically they can use fight or flight, and yeah, so I think the Teemo matchup definitely felt pretty good for Darius as well. Even though like I did lose a game in my last match, I think mostly due to some misplays. So that's basically the summary for how I did in this fourth Rift Lab Clash. I think Darius definitely feels so much better than any of the other decks I've been playing. I still don't really understand why it hasn't really been played in regionals in China. Maybe I need to test out some of the Aurora matchups more. I think I might bring Darius to another Rift Lab clash just to see if I can get some consistent results. I know that there are some other players that have been doing really well with Darius over the past few like online tournaments. Hopefully it'll stay the same for me and I can get a little better at it. I'm really looking forward to like going to like a regional, maybe in North America or even in Asia if I get the chance. So that's something I'm really looking forward to doing. And yeah, that's going to be it for this video. As usual, thanks for watching.